So he is back. Jameson Albrecht today is going to take us through Capture More Leads. We're lucky to have him back to teach another class for us. Just to give you a little bit more background on Jameson, if you didn't get to see him teach the first time he was with us, he's a third-generation realtor. Has 26 years of experience in the real estate industry. Throughout his career, he's had direct involvement or oversight in over 100,000 real estate transactions. His experience includes residential, commercial, land development, foreclosures, title, escrow, lending. Jameson has a learning-based mindset and is excited to share his experiences to help agents in the Capital City Market Center grow and beyond. When he isn't working, Jameson enjoys spending time outdoors, hiking, fishing, and traveling. So definitely someone I know that's happy to have this be an interactive thing. Feel free to pick his brain. And I'll go ahead and hand things over to Jameson for Capture More Leads.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good. Excellent. Let me share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see that? Cool. All right. So today we're covering the topic of capture more leads in our segment on lead generation. So far in Ignite, you've been making contact with your sphere, those people that you know and who know you. In this session, you're going to discover other sources of leads. There are methods for meeting new people, getting to know them, and having them know you. You'll hear it over and over again. The more leads, the better. And the more quality leads converted to contacts, the better. Okay, so let's just real quick go over what we're going to talk about today. Start thinking about what you're going to learn today. Let's consider what questions you may already have and what we'd like to learn about. Does anyone have questions going into today about capturing more leads or anything that they want to make sure that I cover? Okay, well, if you think of something as we're going by, like, feel free to shout it out, put it in the chat. If somebody notices something in the chat and I miss it, again, feel free to interrupt me and shout out so we can get those questions answered. So you love people, but at the same time, you haven't yet learned to love hunting for that. So Gary Keller tells us this in Shift. This is about learning to love lead generation, the hunt for people who are ready and willing to buy or sell real estate now or in the near future. In this session, you're going to learn sources for leads so that you'll never run out, and you'll learn how to love hunting. Our objectives for today are two. Number one, gain a deeper understanding of how to create and disseminate lead generation messages. And number two, be able to expand your referral strategies. By the end of this session, you're going to choose your top 4 lead generation sources and be able to lay out strategies and timelines to generate leads from those sources. We've said all along that Keller Williams is built on models and systems. So naturally, there's a simple system for capturing more leads. It's a system that you're going to find works. Your number one job is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. Again, this comes from Shift. It's always smart to be reminded of our number one job as real estate agents. It's lead generations. Without leads, we have no sales, therefore no business, and we're in the business of lead generation. Since leads are everywhere, we must always be hyper aware and be on alert as when they appear. Lead generation should always be purposeful, and lead generation should always be intentional. So this slide depicts a system that will help your lead generation more purposeful. We call this message and method of your lead generation, or the 2 M's. It's about having a message and using a method to drive that message to the desired audience. Now, your message, number one, must match your market, and number two, make an offer for immediate response. right? Or you'll hear that referred to as MOFR quite a bit. Make an offer for immediate response. So you match your market by tailoring the intended message to the sentiments and market conditions of a target group in that area in which you operate. And then have a call to action that can be direct. For example, call me now, call today. Or it could also be indirect. So like go to my website at www.willamette Homefinder to find more information, right? Or whatever. That's more of an indirect call to action. So what could be an offer that would generate a response? Or what would make your phone ring or generate immediate responses to a text or in a social media message? Any ideas? How about something like, this awesome house just came on the market. If you're looking for a home in this neighborhood, call me right away. Do you know the prices of homes? Do you know about the prices of homes in your neighborhood or this part of town? I got a report for you. Call, text, or visit my website to sign up. Interest rates are coming down. If you're considering buying now or thinking about refinancing, I can put you in touch with lenders who can work with you. So again, these are some messages that give an offer for an immediate response. Okay, let's discuss method. There's two primary methods of getting your message out there to your target group: prospecting and marketing, which we covered earlier in the beginning of the lead generation segment. This session's only going to cover additional prospecting sources, right? Like we're not going to go over what you guys have already gone through. So when you're truly on the hunt for leads, you'll find a lot of opportunity out there. Let's say that you're at a coffee shop and you overhear a couple talking about an open house that they've just visited. What do you say? I've got a simple system and approach. You simply connect and ask. First, approach with a conversation starter. Something like, hey, I heard you talking about an open house. Are you looking for a home in the area? Second, connect with individuals in a way that builds rapport and trust. One of the best ways is with questions. Look for opportunities to be of service to them. So for example, I have a list of all the homes for sale in this area. I'd love to connect with you so that you can stay informed of what comes to the market. Have stats if they're available. The average consumer will consider you an expert once they've heard you give them 5 different statistics. So, you might, if it's an area that you know well, you're probably going to know average price point, about how many homes in that area have sold, about how many are listed, what the homes in that area generally look like as far as size, year built, stuff like that, right? So if you have stats available, that's an enormous help as well. And then last, if appropriate, ask to meet with them to learn more about their situation. Don't forget to apply the Ford method to connect with somebody and, of course, deepen the relationship. So question, who on this call would do that? Who would walk up to somebody in a coffee shop and start a conversation? Okay, no one. Why?
You don't want to be intrusive. I know I probably would be a little taken aback if somebody were to, some stranger just to come up in a coffee shop, to me and try to strike a conversation. So I guess I wouldn't want to be that forward. I wouldn't think I would want to be that forward.
I would agree with that. Also, for myself personally, I don't think I know enough as of yet to feel comfortable enough to go and start pitching someone.
Okay. I would say that those are, number one, common reluctances that people have. And I certainly understand them and I understand why. I will tell you though, I have picked up clients in retail establishments just from this situation, right? Like standing in line at the grocery store and you overhear the people in line in front of you talking about, you know, houses that they're looking at or talking about, you know, whatever. Sitting in a restaurant waiting for an appointment. I overheard the people at the table next to me talking about overheard them talking about a house one time and just, you know, like bumped my head and gave them my card and ended up doing business with them. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand the reluctance because I had that same reluctance when I first got into the business. And so it's something that maybe you experiment with at first. A friend of mine in Las Vegas, he will go down to his local coffee shop once a week. He has from his MLS, he has a list printed out of all the active properties, everything under contract, and everything sold, you know, in the last like 60, 90 days with him. And he'll stand in line, he'll get his coffee, and he'll tell the barista as they're ringing him up, hey, I'm going to pay for coffee for the 5 people at the in line behind me, whether there's 5 people or not. And he gives her 5 business cards. He said, will you, you know, give them each one of my business cards. And so, and then after you ring them all up, I'll just give you my credit card and pay all at once. And everyone thanks him for the coffee, right? Like he's spending like $5 here a person or whatever. Everyone always thanks him. He almost always gets their contact information. He does it enough, and he's been doing this consistently for about 6 years now, that he steadily does this once a week. And it's just like, he always calls it his easy lead gen day, because he shows up at the coffee shop, buys a few people a cup of coffee. They end up, you know, coming over and thanking him. And then they ask him about the market, or they ask him, you know, something. And like I said, he's got, you know, neighborhood stats ready to go. He's got everything with him. You know, he's got his laptop if anybody's really serious. And he collects their contact info, right? Gets them into his database. So again, these are ideas to think about. And I understand, like, you know, maybe not wanting to like jump out there and go out and start frequenting retail establishments and saying, hey, can I talk to you? Hey, can I talk to you? Notwithstanding that, I would, you know, try it, right? Like if you're in a situation where you overhear something, try it one time and just see what sort of response you get. What ahas have we had so far?
I think that example is an aha. That's a great idea.
Cool. You know, I will also tell, I have a friend who he lives in Salt Lake. He's a realtor, and he has always got a stack of business cards with him. And he is the person naturally that if he's at the grocery store, or if he's at Costco or whatever, and he sees you looking at something that he likes, he'll just start talking to you, right? So I'm trying to think of this. There was some dip or something. I was at Costco with him one time, and there was something in this, like the refrigeration section. I think it was like a dip or something. And he walks up to this woman and he just starts telling her if she goes over to aisle 3, there's these chips that go perfectly with it and blah, 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 right? And like all this random stuff. And so, yeah, he ends up getting business all the time just from doing his normal stuff. So keep in mind that there's always different ways to prospect in this business. And it really is just about forming relationships. As your business grows, you can start doing really cool stuff. Like I've got friends that will do movie events where they'll rent an entire movie theater and invite everyone in their database to come to a movie, right? It works best when there's a big name movie coming out, like a Disney movie, a Star Wars, or like something like that everybody wants to see really bad. But yeah, I mean, as your business grows, you can do all sorts of cool stuff like that. Okay, so we've discussed prospecting versus marketing in earlier sessions. Today, we're going to go just a little bit deeper. So again, Keller tells us in Shift that lead generation is a contact sport with simple rules. It means making contact with people through prospecting and marketing. Now, I know that you guys have seen this chart before, and you're going to see it a lot at KW. We talk about it all the time. Everyone you know and every lead that you know is somewhere on this graph, right? Like all of us are somewhere on this graph. The question is there the top of the graph, the bottom, somewhere in between? Because everyone's timeline and everyone's life experiences are different. And it's your job to do your best to predict where they are always at, right? So do you only prospects that are leads on their way up? That is, moving towards buying? Well, no. Every lead that you capture and build a relationship with is a potential buyer and seller at some point. And more importantly, every lead that you capture is a potential referral source for you, right? So I don't know if you all know this or not, but the average consumer has 6 opportunities a year to refer a real estate agent. So what do I mean by that? I mean, 6 times a year, the average person is talking to their friend, their family member, their neighbor, coworker, whatever the case may be. And that person that they're talking to starts saying that they're thinking about moving or something like that. And the consumer has an opportunity to say, oh, I know a realtor, right? My friend, like, hey, my friend Skylar's a realtor. Let me give you his name and number, right? So from that perspective, you want to make sure that you're staying in contact with everybody. So for those of you who don't know, I recently moved to Oregon in November. So when I tell real estate sales stories, my real estate sales experience is in Utah and Las Vegas. So when I'm like in Utah and Salt Lake and whatever, that's why. But my best friend in Salt Lake, I've known him since 1996. He's referred, I can't tell you how many people to me. I haven't once sold he and his wife a house. They've lived in their same house since right after I met them. They got married and moved in together. I've never sold those to a house. I've never helped them with their own real estate needs. He refers people to me like you would not believe. He's referred 2 listings to me since I moved to Oregon, right? Like, so, I mean, I helped his son sell a house the other day, a couple of months ago, whatever. So yeah, so everybody always has 6 opportunities a year to refer real estate agents. So that's why we say, when we say, who are you prospecting for or when, it's everyone and all the time. Okay, so if anyone's following along in the participant guide, we're on page 5. So you saw this in session 5, and it's here again to remind you of the 2 methods for lead generation, prospecting and marketing, and that your business should be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. So can anyone tell me why it's better to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced? So prospecting is free, basically. It simply requires your time to complete it. And marketing costs money. It's more of a wait and see method. Also, prospecting builds a business that will thrive in down markets. And quite honestly, prospecting is really where you're going to get clients, right? Because I can send you all the marketing material in the world. And it's when you actually talk to me and ask me whatever question is important to you that all of a sudden we start building that connection, right? Our last 2 sessions were about open houses and social media. Prospecting helps support awareness and lead generation around your open houses and social media. Social media can be a prospecting tool as well as a tool for marketing. Okay, so this is on page 6 of your participant guide. There's many prospecting sources to share your message through. Has anyone tried any of these sources? And if so, would you mind sharing your experience? And does anyone see what's missing from the list? What's that? Okay, so what is missing from the list is social media. And the reason that social media is missing from the list is because this comes from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, MREA. And MREA was published in 2002. And social media wasn't a big deal back then. This is actually one of my favorite things about the MREA is it's 21 years old now, and everything in it is still incredibly relevant, right? So how do you think it's best to approach prospecting? Do you think it's best to select several sources or try everything at once? Or is there a source that you'd like to start out with and follow through with? Has anyone thought much about this yet? So I'm going to tell you, kind of my experience. When I first got into real estate, I tried a number of, different prospecting methods, cold calling, door knocking, and I'll be honest with you, cold calling is the one that I like the least, and I also have the best success with. Door knocking would be probably second, so I do that. I love to door knock, though I'm we'll say a fair weather door knocker, right? Like if it's too hot or if it's too cold outside, I do not go door knocking. I would rather sit there and make calls. I learned to love things like networking event, community outreach type opportunities, and then building key relationships with people who could refer business to me. Other business owners, for example, is a great one. Attorneys are a good one. Accountants are a good one, estate type planning people. And so, so those were the areas where I focused. And when Keller Williams did a survey of top agents, we found that most agents focus on about 4 different sources of prospecting. So like for me, I did primarily, door knocking, community outreach, and then key relationships. Now I'd make some phone calls around those 3 activities, right? I would do some open houses around my listings and stuff like that. But then of course your 4th source is always going to be your database or your sphere of influence. Because that's of course, right? Like that, building that database is gold. It really is.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
When you were trying to connect with, you mentioned attorneys. Can I ask like what you would call and say? Can you give me an example?
Okay, so like estate planning attorneys will generally be able to make referrals to you.
Right.
So, and here's the thing to remember is they already know somebody, right? So don't call them and say, hey, do you have anything coming up? Because, and the other thing is they don't necessarily know, like, I mean, sometimes, this person's going to pass away in the next few weeks or whatever, but they also don't know when their clients are going to pass away. So a lot of people call up and say, hey, is there anything that I could help you out with? And that's a mistake because their answer is going to be no. Anything that they anybody that's passed away where they're helping out with the estate, they've already referred out to somebody. And again, they don't know who's going to pass away next. So the answer is always going to be no. So the script there is more of, hey, I know that you've already got established real estate relationships. If you're ever looking for, a second option, maybe a unique client or whatever, I would love the opportunity to help you out. Right.
Gotcha.
So it's more about forward thinking. In relationships, that's the thing, is referral relationships like that. That is always the best way to get into them. It's just, hey, if you ever need, like, maybe you need a second opinion, maybe your client didn't like the person that you sent them to. I'm coaching a guy in Salt Lake who used this line. He just got a listing. And the reason that he took the listing was because the realtor that the attorney normally refers to didn't want the listing because there were still people living in the house. And they were very difficult tenants, if you will. So, or family members of the deceased. And so my buddy got the listing because he was willing to go work with those difficult tenants and help them find a new place and work through, right? But now he's got his foot in the door with this probate attorney that he has the opportunity to get a lot more business from.
Great.
So yeah, so that's really the best way. That's been my experience as far as the best way to have those conversations. And then also keep in mind that you always want to come from contribution. Is there anything I can do to help your business? Is there anything I can do to support your business? Do you ever need valuations or price opinions or stuff like that, right? Like, I'm always happy to give you comparables or whatever. Because you never, right? Like, that stuff comes up quite frequently where an attorney's like, hey, I need to know about what this house is worth for whatever document they're doing. Okay, so looking at this list, which sources would you guys consider? What ones, do you have questions about any of these?
I have a question. So circle prospecting for neighborhoods, would that be your neighborhood that you live in?
So circle prospecting is you can either do it by a neighborhood, right? So you pick a neighborhood and you get a list of homeowners that live in that neighborhood and maybe surrounding areas. You could pick like apartment complexes in a certain community, or you could go like a recently sold listing. So for example, a house just sold down the street from, if there's an area that you want to target, let's say a house just sold down the street from there, and you call up and you say, hey, the house over on Elm Street just sold, and it's been my experience that when one house in the neighborhood sells, there's usually 2 to 3 more that come up right after that. Just want to know who that I could call and help, sell their home. And then, of course, recently listed properties, same thing. Hey, this property just came up on Elm Street. This is your opportunity to pick your neighbor. Who do you know that wants to live in your neighborhood? What other questions do we have? Oh, and by the way, you can combine, like, these things get combined too. So like when I would do some of my community outreach stuff, I would pair that with door knocking, for example. So I would collect like around Thanksgiving time, I'd go around and collect canned goods. Right. And I would take a flyer with me and I would give them the flyer. And that was kind of my intro was, hey, I'm Jameson with Keller Williams Realty. I'm collecting, canned goods for the homeless. I'm going to be by next Thursday between 3 and 5. I'll, pick up anything on your front porch. Do me a favor. Let me know that there's something there so I know to stop at your house for sure. right? And I'd have a little flyer that said the same thing. Oh, and by the way, before I leave, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell a house, right? Because now you've gotten into a nice conversation with them about, you're doing something nice for the community. You've given them this warm, happy feel. I had somebody, I will never forget this. I started talking to her because she just pulled into her garage and she was just getting out of her car. And I just started talking to her. And as I was leaving, I noticed there was this big no soliciting sign on the front door. And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't see that sign before I started talking to you. I am so sorry. And she looked at me, she said, honey, this is charity. You are not soliciting. Oh, okay, thank you. Right. So like stuff like that is a nice way to start a relationship. And then, yeah, you just kind of end it with, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate? And you would be shocked at how many people will say, well, actually, yeah, we're thinking about moving, like just different things like that. Anything else that anyone's got some questions on or some prospecting methods that y'all would like to talk about? Think about. So let's quickly go through this. You have offline advertising, things like radio, TV, newspapers, personal vehicles, bus stops or bus benches, magazines, billboards, yellow
I have a
pages, grocery.
question.
Nope.
I'm sorry. Really quick. Are we gonna be able to get these in like PDF or something, this list, or can we find it in our book?
Hello? Did you guys lose me for a minute?
We did. Looks like
Yeah.
it's in the Ignite book, 9.6.
Okay,
Page
thank
9.
you.
You bet.
Okay, was that your question, Gloria? I'm sorry, I did not hear your question at all.
Yeah, no, I was just asking about a PDF form to look back at this, but apparently it's in the book. So thank you.
Yeah, it is in your participant guide. I believe it's on page 6. Yep. Okay. Next in marketing, so we've got online advertising, so pay-per-click ads, SEO, social media. We've got broadcast, radio, TV, media, or live. Like that. You can get them published or advice columns, and then of course sponsorship.
Jameson, I don't know if everybody else is experiencing this, but yeah, we keep losing you.
Uh-oh.
We're getting bits and pieces.
It's like it freezes up, like you're frozen right now.
It's kind of funny.
Can you hear me now? How about now?
That's better.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got you again. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm not sure what's going on here. Can you see my screen? All right, are we good?
Well, just keep with losing your audio, and then the camera keeps freezing up.
Oh,
I don't know whether it's your internet connection or.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, you guys.
Right now, it seems to be working.
Okay,
It's good now.
cool, cool. All right. Hopefully that was just a minor blip. Okay, so you can see based on this list, I mean, it's pretty obvious that marketing has related expenses, right? And also not only does it have expenses, but it takes you longer to see results, right? And there's, I mean, a lot of this marketing stuff, like a bus bench, for example. We've all seen realtors and insurance agents on bus benches. Has anyone ever called somebody and said, "Oh, I saw you on the bus bench and had to call you to get my insurance for it"? No, right? It's more about just like brand recognition once your name is really getting established in the area. Command has a easy way to set up Facebook advertising for those that do want to do some marketing. It's very low cost, and you can learn more about this at answers.kw.com or in search in the Ignite reference guide. In addition, there's a lot of courses on Connect that will walk you through the process. I can tell you, I have had good luck doing Facebook command ads for my listings. And I know a lot of other agents that have as well. And it really is inexpensive. I mean, you can do it for just a few dollars a day. On the same note, Gary Keller always tells us to lead with revenue. So don't start spending money on marketing until you're making money. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's a lot of sources that use both prospecting and marketing. For example, open houses, which is covered in session 7. We're going to talk about geographic farming in a few slides, as well as seminars, events, and referrals. Geographic farming is something that I love. Tell me can anyone tell me a common prospecting method with open houses? I would say that door knocking is the most important method with your open house. Go out and door knock 10 houses this way, 10 houses that way. The 10 houses across the street. Number one, makes your neighborhood aware of the open house. And then invite neighbors to the open house to meet you and see the active listing in the neighborhood and possibly refer a buyer to you. So I love to, when I'm doing an open house, like if I'm doing an open house on a Saturday, I like to go out on like either the Wednesday afternoon or the Thursday afternoon about 4 o'clock and door knock the neighborhood and let them, give them an open house flyer and say to them, "Hey, so the flyer says that the open house goes from 12 to 2 or whatever. However, I will be there 30 minutes early just for neighbors. So if you want to come see your neighbor's house, like get there early." And seriously, you will have neighbors that will show up. I mean, first of all, neighbors are generally nosy to begin with. They won't admit it, but they all want to see their neighbor's house. They want to compare it to theirs and whatever. And again, there's 6 opportunities a year for them to refer an agent, for them to refer somebody to you, right? So you will get neighbors that will show up. I've had listings where some of the neighbors in the neighborhood have become my best friends, like my biggest advocates, right? I've had neighbors call me to tell me that other realtors have knocked on their door. I mean, people who aren't interested in buying, selling, nothing like that. It just so happens that I had the house listed 2 doors away from them. They've called me up to say, "Hey, this other agent's honing in on your territory." And I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, okay, well, there's no such thing as territories in real estate, but thank you for letting me know, right? So yeah, so you will definitely form those bonds, those relationships with people, and they'll think of you. Believe me, they will think of you. once you've made that connection. Now, as we all know, it tells me to ask you what part of your job this covers, but as we all know, this, what's on the screen right now, this is prospecting, right? This is the biggest part of our job as business owners, is getting revenue, getting, money in the door. What are some ahas about prospecting marketing and lead generation techniques have you guys had so far? Let's move on to referrals. Oops, sorry. Okay, goldmine of referrals. Many agents miss out on referrals, and yet they can be an easy and lucrative source of leads. Imagine if leads simply came to you as referrals from your sphere of friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, etc. We all talk about the different types of referrals in the system to put into place to make the most of those referrals. So today we're going to talk about client referrals, agent to agent referrals, worldwide referrals, and then business to business referrals. As mentioned earlier, top agents rely on their sphere and clients as their greatest source of referrals. Some agents even say that 90% of their business comes from referrals. Another friend of mine in Salt Lake, he was in the business, he's long retired, but he was in the business in the 90s when I very first got into it. And he was one of the top agents in his office. And I remember the receptionist there telling me one day that she said, I don't know how Gary makes all the sales he makes. He doesn't work. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I hear him in there on the phone all the time. And she said, yeah, he's talking to his friends. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, that's his business. That's how he gets business. She's like, he just calls friends and they give him business. And I'm like, well, yeah, when you're doing it as long as he's been doing it, yeah, that's what happens. You call and you talk to your friends and you have good conversations with them. And they're like, oh, by the way, so-and-so is looking to buy and sell, call them. So, you really can get to the point where you're a referral-based agent. We have agents, every market center has agents that are referral-based agents that do very little prospecting and marketing, other than staying in touch with their friends and family. I've got an agent here in Salem. That's the only reason that she keeps her business, is because her real estate business pays for her to do things like buy her friends little gifts and keep in contact with her friends and, that sort of stuff. So, otherwise she'd be retired. Because her and her husband they've done very well in life. So it begins by setting the expectations with your sphere that your business runs on referrals and that you trust them to provide referrals of people that they know who have real estate needs. So that's it, right? Well, no, not exactly. First, you set the expectation and then you provide value. You must be deserving of the referral, or you must be referable. The relationship with your sphere and clients is meant to be reciprocal. You provide value, they trust you, they know the value that you provide, and they refer their friends and family to you. The value exchange simply never stops. So let's talk about ways that you can provide value besides, these three listed on the slide of share your KW app, share market stats, or provide a vetted vendor list. What else can you do to provide value? Okay, be a problem solver. So at Keller Williams, we often say that you don't have to be the source of the information, you become the source of the source. So somebody calls you and says, hey, my property taxes went way up this year. What do I do? Right? You find the assessor's information to them, you send them the link, hey, go to this website, this is the county assessor for your area. This is how you, and this is, their website for challenging property taxes. Everybody's got one, right? I know agents who will print out the form to challenge the value and actually help their clients fill it out. And provide them with comparables and help them establish that the house is listed too high. I have people call me all the time and just ask me, and people at this point in my career, I have people from multiple states calling me on a regular basis to ask me stuff like, oh, I need an electrician in Vegas, or what do I do about this problem? Or who do I call, right? Like, I need a roof repair, or I need my roof cleaned, or I need, I need a new landscaper, or I need a cleaning person, or whatever, right? Like, when you start becoming the person that knows everything about real estate, right? Like, people will start reaching out to you with just random questions like that. And it's great. You can provide elevated service, right? So you guys are going to be shocked when you get out there and start selling real estate and find the service level that other agents are offering. The biggest complaint, and if you go to National Association of Realtors, you will see in their annual reports year after year after year, the biggest complaint that consumers have about realtors is that we don't communicate well. So simply communicating to your buyers and sellers on a weekly basis is a great way to add elevated service that doesn't cost you anything. And it makes them not only understand that you're working for them on a daily basis, it also makes them feel important, which is really, at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is make somebody be important, right? Be caring and supportive, right? And again, make them feel important. You would be shocked at, again, some of the agents that you're going to work with. You will be shocked. So getting referrals does mean that you have to ask for them, not just one time, but every time you connect, especially after you've provided value, right? Start ending all your phone conversations with, oh, hey, before I let you go, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I can help today? Right? Every phone conversation. When's the best time to ask for a referral? Whenever there's a moment that a client expresses gratitude or they're very happy or excited, right? So I wouldn't necessarily ask for a referral if somebody's upset about something. The consultation, when they sign the contract, and of course at the close of the transaction, that's always when the client is the happiest. And again, for the most part, nearly every conversation becomes an opportunity to ask for a referral. Okay, so here's a few sample conversations, there are a few sample conversation starters in your participant guide. Things like, my goal by the end of this transaction is for you to be so thrilled that you're going to tell everyone about me. Who do you know that would like an experience like you've had? If I provided a stellar experience, it would be the greatest gift if you refer me to friends, family, and coworkers so I can provide them with this same experience. Whenever you receive a referral, whether that referral turns into business or not, it's important to reward the behavior of providing the referral, right? This can be as simple as a gift card for coffee. It can be as simple as just a phone call to say thank you, or a thank you card in the mail, right? Treat the referral source even better than you treat the referral itself, because you want more referrals from them in the future. Once they give you one referral, you've taught them how to do it. Don't lose that source. A lot of agents will track the people who provide referrals by marking them in their database, like giving them a special tag or something, and then continue to reward them throughout the relationship. So for example, I know agents, an agent, for example, that I know that does nothing but business to business referrals. He takes, he goes after, attorneys and CPAs and those types of people. And a couple of times a year, he does this great big client dinner at, an incredibly expensive restaurant and has all these, invites all these people. Because they're providing him, multiple transactions throughout the year. A special handwritten note goes a long ways with your referring clients. One suggestion that I have in handwriting notes is don't just put your business card in there. Write your name legibly. Don't just like scribble to sign your name. Write your name legibly on the card and write your phone number on the card. The reason being is because sometimes they will stick your card on the fridge, and most of the time your business card ends up in the garbage can. So one of the things that I have done throughout my career is I have found this photographer in Southern Utah. His name is David West. He puts out these different these different cards. They're completely blank inside, but they have an absolutely gorgeous picture on the front of them. One of the things that I've learned is that I write my name and number on the inside cover because I have literally gone into people's homes or offices and found that they've taken my card, they've torn it in half, and they've stuck just this part with the pretty picture to their bulletin board or their fridge or whatever, and they hang on to it for a really, really long time. So do not so many agents are not going to send handwritten notes, you guys. I know that most of you won't. I'm going to really, really advise that you do it because it makes a huge difference. Think about the last time you got a handwritten piece of mail. Didn't you open it and look at it and pay close attention to it? Top agents will also hold special events like we talked about. And this is something that you are going to want to you can certainly look at more in your career, later in your career. You can learn more about gaining client referrals by viewing the session called Fill Your Funnel with Client Referrals. And that's in the series called No Ceiling, Level Up Your Lead Generation. And that is available on Connect. Okay, client referrals can come from agents as well. You already know some agents in your market center in this class, and you're going to meet agents from other brokerages while conducting business. So can anyone think of a reason that another agent might refer a lead to you instead of servicing the lead themselves?
Maybe dual agent, or like if they're representing the buyer and they also have a seller.
Yeah, so for example, they don't want to represent both sides. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Or if they're down, like I'm in Southern Oregon and maybe I know somebody up in Portland that's looking for a property, I would refer to an agent up in the Portland area.
Yeah, the client is outside of the area that you're willing to work or that you feel like you're an expert in. And so, yeah, absolutely. You refer it to somebody else. What else?
I've noticed just being able to speak Spanish. I've noticed that other agents would refer Spanish speaking clients over to me. So that's been something really cool I've been learning about.
Yeah, no, and that's, it absolutely. Maybe there's some reason that client connects with you better. And language is certainly, language barrier can certainly be that reason. Maybe there's an agent who's focused on listings and isn't interested in buyer leads. And you'll find as you grow your business, listings take less of your time. And that's why as agents grow and they build teams and they start growing those teams, the rainmaker or the team leader generally works listings only and doesn't work with buyers. Maybe an agent specializes in a particular price point or neighborhood or a type of home. So a lot of times you'll find luxury agents. I have a friend who's a luxury agent in Las Vegas. She really doesn't want anything that's less than $1 million at this point in her career, right? So she, in her situation, she, partnered with her son, and her son takes, her, like low end $500,000 buyers off her hands. But yeah, she's at the point in her career, she does about $24 million a year, and everything's over $1 million. So there's a number of reasons that other agents may refer. We had a situation here in Salem where a seller, the deal fell apart kind of at the last minute. She blamed the listing agent, despite the fact that I really don't feel like it was the listing agent's fault. And she asked us for, a different agent. She said, "I'm happy to keep the listing at Keller Williams. I don't want to keep it with this, with this particular broker." And this broker didn't want to keep the seller either after everything that had happened. And so this broker referred them to another broker. The other broker took it and took the listing. So there's a lot of reasons that referrals happen. You want to make sure that you stay top of mind with agents so they think of you first when they need to refer. Keep in mind that you're competing with other agents for their attention, and you should be constantly thinking of creative ways to stand out and be different and be remembered. Many KW agents build their business with agent-to-agent referrals, and you can too with the system. So this is kind of how an agent-to-agent referrals work. When an agent refers a client to you, you agree to pay the agent a certain percentage of your commission, and vice versa when you refer a client to another agent. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said something. Referring clients that you cannot serve to other agents helps everyone out, you, the agent, and the client. One of the smartest things that you all did was join Keller Williams, and you will find, if you go on Facebook and start looking around, there's a lot of different groups within Keller Williams where other agents have just sort of started. And there's a lot of referrals that are handed out within those groups. So yeah, it's really a great way to build business. I've done a lot of agent-to-agent referral business in my career. And there's a couple of things that I really like about it. Number one, you're getting a client at a higher price point because generally people that are relocating are spending more money. Number two, you're getting a client who has to buy or sell because they're having to relocate for whatever reason, whether it's a life event or a new job or whatever reason, they have to relocate. And generally speaking, they have a drop dead date when they either have to be here or be there by. So they're extremely motivated, and that makes them extremely easy to work with. Okay, so let's talk about the agent-to-agent referral model. So first you grow. You begin by growing an agent referral network. So keep track of agents that you meet throughout the course of business. Reach out to agents in other cities and states, especially from locations where people are moving from. Again, like I said, Facebook's a great way to do this. Social media is a great way to do this because you will see in these groups people saying, "Hey, I need an agent in Portland. Who do I know?" Or, "Hey, I need," like whatever. It happens all the time. The second, the agent-to-agent model is managed. So systematize your agent referral models by being purposeful about it. Just as with leads and contacts, build relationships and provide value, you need to make it reciprocal. They provide you referrals and you provide referrals to them. Next, maintain. Keep your network up to date and stay in communication with your network partners. Track all referrals going out and coming in. So question, can anybody think about ways that you could build relationships with areas outside your market?
One way I think with Keller is like attend some of the conferences would be a way to meet people.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. You can also, within KW Connect, there's what we call our white pages. So you can look agents up in other markets and other market centers. You can get their contact information and start building a database. And you'll find an easy to use agent referral network in Command. It allows you to find and connect with agents based on location and production. You can discover referral patterns showing where the referrals are coming from and going to. You can track referrals given or received all the way to close and you getting paid. Other great sources of finding information about where people are coming from is the Census Bureau, and the IRS. The US Census tracks domestic migration. So they can tell you like county to county where people are going. And then the IRS tracks migration by seeing how addresses change on individual tax returns. And both of them data can be found on their websites. So let's talk about worldwide referrals. Don't know if you guys know this or not, but as of the beginning of last year, Keller Williams has had a presence in 50 regions, including the US and Canada. Agents in our worldwide regions can be referral partners to you as well. It works a little bit differently than a typical referral, but it absolutely does work. Be open to the possibility of leads from anywhere in the world. Add agents from our worldwide regions to your referral network. So think about connections that you have with countries outside of your own, what friends or family with connections that you have with connections elsewhere. Let's say that you have a client that decides to sell their home and move to Puerto Rico for retirement. Instead of leaving your client to find an agent in Puerto Rico, you'd look up KW agents in that area and refer your client to them, right? So it becomes a win-win for you. Win-win for you, win-win for the client, and win for the other agent. Next time you travel, you can learn more about agent-to-agent referrals by viewing the session called Anchor Your Business with Agent Referrals. And that is also in the series called No Ceiling, Level Up Your Lead Generation, available on KW Connect. Now, I will also give you guys a bit of my experience. One of the ways that I have built my referral database, number one, and number two, written off some of my travel expense, is when I travel someplace, I find the local Keller Williams office and I call and I find out when their team meetings are. And I ask if I can show up to one of their team meetings, if their team meeting coincides with the rest of my travel plans. If it doesn't coincide with the rest of my travel plans, I ask if I, well, can I show up on Thursday at 9 o'clock or whenever I want to show up. And then I go to the market center, I have some of my business cards, I have a little flyer that says, hey, I'm your friendly referral partner in Salem, Oregon. Pass those out, talk to anybody about Oregon real estate or whatever, right? That they want to talk about. Well, guess what? Now I just got to write off my airfare because I had to fly there to go visit that KW Market Center. I got to write off my hotel stay the day before I went there because I had to get there a day early. And I get to write off my hotel stay for the day I go there because I had to spend the night there. I couldn't go home till the next day, right? And I have to write off my meals for that day because I had to get there and I had to eat out. So now I'm writing off a good portion of my vacation as a business expense. And all I'm doing is spending a couple hours going and passing out business cards and chatting with people. Another source for referrals is business to business referrals. How many of you have recommended another business to a friend, a family member, or a neighbor? Right? Like,
You froze up again. We lost you.
referring your acquaintances to business that you've come to respect and trust, right? And this is a one-way referral. To make it reciprocal, you need to develop business relationships with the owner manager of your favorite businesses and discuss how you can help each other. So you refer clients to their business, right? Like maybe you refer your buyer clients who are new in town to your dentist partner. And in turn, when that dentist gets a new client or a new patient who's new in town, he asks, "Do you own a house?" "Oh, I know a great realtor." Business owners refer clients to you, right? So for example, a handyman that you've often referred is hiring a person, is hired by a person to fix up their house in preparation to list it for sale. The handyman lets you know, and then you connect with her, right? Think about services that people need around their house. And these are the businesses that you start to call and that you can start building relationships with. It's really easy to get started. If you turn to your participant guide on page 9.9, there's a place where you can write down businesses that you'd like to connect with and let them know that you're a real estate agent, that you'd like to help with your business. Who can think of businesses that they could do this with, right? Like who could you call that might be a referral source to you?
I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier with some sort of attorney. There's multiple attorneys.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 And the other, like, think about any place, think about any service that you need in your house, right? Like carpets cleaned, tile cleaned, concrete power washed, roof cleaned, you know, like those sort of things, right? Like those are great referral areas. I know a lot of realtors who have gotten into the business because, say, they're a landscaper, and so they know a lot of people who, you know, a lot of people will be like, "Hey, come fix my backyard, blah, blah, blah." And the landscaper goes, "Oh, why, you know, what are you doing? You know, why are you making these changes?" "Well, we're going to list the house and sell it." "Oh, do you have a realtor?" "No." "Oh, let me give you my other card." Right? A friend of mine started a carpet cleaning business when he was in college. And he learned that so many people were getting their carpets cleaned before selling their home that he went and got his real estate license to like supplement his college life. And between his carpet cleaning business and his real estate business, he doesn't use his college degree now, right? He uses his carpet cleaning business to get leads for his real estate business. So there's a lot of ways that you can get referrals for, you know, business to business referrals. We've talked about client referrals, agent referrals, worldwide referrals, and business referrals. So what are some ahas that you have about referrals as far as a lead generation source? All right. Well, earlier we mentioned that there's some more sources. So now we're going to cover geographic farming, and we're going to talk about events and seminars. Geographic farming. Does anyone know what geographic farming is? So, oh, by the way, we're on page 9.10 of your participant guide now. So geographic farming is when an agent chooses a particular area to go after. Many agents choose to focus their prospecting and marketing efforts in a specific neighborhood or a set of neighborhoods. And that is called a targeted geographic farm. Is everyone familiar with this website Nextdoor? So a geographical farm is similar to that, right? Like it's essentially targeted messaging within a particular neighborhood. When you choose to farm a neighborhood, be aware that it will not yield immediate results. This lead source is more of a long game, if you will, and you must be committed to working your farm once you begin it. So choosing a farm involves some considerations like the number of houses and the turnover rate, price point, and several and are there competing agents in the area may affect your decision as well. Once you've chosen the farm area, you'll devote yourself to knocking everything in the area you'll commit yourself to knowing all about the area, its history, the growth, the happenings, and more. You become part of the community and people will recognize you as part of your community. You're also committed to staying in communication with the residents and keeping them informed of what's happening in the area. Right, like this. So as an example, I don't know that I would pick geographic farming as my lead source if I did not like door knocking, right? Because door knocking and face-to-face conversations is really important in geographic farming. Geographic farming is one of the sources that I used to use in Vegas. And yeah, you got to get out there in the neighborhood and really, really know the neighborhood. Some ways that you can maximize your prospecting and marketing efforts within your geographic farm area. So let's talk about open house. Like you talked about open houses and social media. And I know that you've been, talking through your daily success system with conversations and adding contacts to your database, sending them handwritten notes. So how do you make all this work within a geographic farm? Well, it starts with a plan, right? Like when you're doing farming, you need a plan. You want to start with a few houses. You can pick an area where you live, like near where you live, where you want to live, or maybe where you grew up. And it doesn't have to be one of those areas. You might consider what you can handle for the long run, like proximity, size, and cost. So as an example, when I set up my geographic farm in Las Vegas, I wanted to look at turn rates, right? Like I called my title rep and I asked them to prepare a report of they're called their turn report. So they could tell me, in specific neighborhoods, how many homes sold in the last 12 months. And then I also looked at price points, right? Because I only wanted to be in certain, priced areas. And I found what I wanted, and it was, 5 or 6 miles away from my house, which was fine, right? So I'd drive out to my farm because the numbers in the neighborhood were more important to me than it being, exactly where I wanted to be, which is funny because my initial thought was that I would set up a geographic farm near me. Door knocking, like I said, is really the key to farming. You're going to visit neighbors, introduce yourself as a resourceful agent. You don't want to be overly pushy. You always want to come from contribution and you always want to offer something of value. So some talk tracks that we can use around that are things like, did you know that homes in our neighborhood are selling in less than 30 days? Or that home over on Elm Street just sold for $550,000. That means home values are going up. You can talk about vendor referrals. Hey, it's springtime and my clients really like ABC Nursery. General info in the area, such as new construction, future construction, road changes, changes in building codes, permits, stuff like that. Set up a discount with a local vendor. That's always great, right? Like if you go out and you're like, hey, I'm Jameson, I'm with Keller Williams Realty. And, I've teamed up with, I don't know, Skylar's Tree Trimming Service. And here's a coupon for 10% off or, one tree free or whatever, right? Chimney cleaning, dry vents. Individuals pay for their own service, and in exchange, you end up getting the contact information so that you can coordinate them with the vendor. Set up a neighborhood food drive where you go around and pick everything up for delivery, like I was talking about before. Okay, and then the 2 final sources of leads. Our lead generation that we're going to talk about today are events and seminars. You might not be prepared for these yet, but they can be very lucrative leads. So events are get-togethers organized and hosted by you. Successful agents are creative when it comes to hosting events. Events are meant to attract leads and don't have to relate directly to real estate. Events also don't have to be super costly, right? So like I gave the example before of renting a movie theater. You don't have to go to that expense, right? You can do things like a neighborhood park cleanup where people join whatever. And then you ask for their addresses so that you can send them thank you notes afterwards. Family front porch photos. So you get dates and times and go take photos of people on their front porch, do family photos and then text it to them or send it to them by email. Again, that way you're getting some of their contact information to put in your database. You can do a virtual game night, right? Using social media, collect names, contacts, information, and more. Can anyone else think of any type of event that you could do low cost? Think about things like, think about what you like to do, right? So if you're a hiker, organize like a group hiking event. If you're if you like board games, do a, in-person game night, meet at a library or someplace, meet at your market center or someplace like that. That's the one thing too is if you've got a community room available to you, you can do that. First-time home buyer seminars happen all the time as well, right? You can team up with a lender, another partner to do that. And that leads on into our next topic of seminars, which are great lead generation. You're seen as the expert immediately. One KW agent moved to a new city where they knew nobody, began offering first-time homebuyer seminars, and started immediately getting business from it. There's ready-to-go seminar materials on Connect within KWU. I know that we've got some new playbooks coming out on it. So yeah, if you're interested in seminars, definitely talk to your coach or your team leader, and they can help you get some info. Your market center tech trainer would know more as well. Who here would be interested in using events or seminars as a lead source?
I would.
I would as well. I've been thinking about doing next year, like the Southern Oregon Home Show, and that kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Seminars are a great way to diversify your database while you expand it. There's underserved communities in every region. So think like, what if I intentionally learn about the communities and needs and then set up seminars to serve them, right? There's innumerable examples of agents who built their businesses helping those that no one else wants to serve to become homeowners and investors. Gloria, we just had an agent here in Salem that did a Spanish-speaking first-time homebuyer seminar. She had an amazing turnout. All of her slides were in Spanish, all of her handouts were in Spanish. Her loan officer was here who also said, right, like it, like everything was, was around that. And yeah, it worked great. An agent who serves a community with a large Somalia population, this is a KW International example, many of whom are devout Muslims, hosted a training session with an expert on Islamic finance for the underserved community. You see, so for Muslims, the basis of Islamic banking prohibits charging interest. So it's in that community, the idea of buying a house and getting a mortgage is just kind of unheard of, right? There are ways to do it. So, you know, this agent hosted this home buying seminar and expected to get, you know, 10 attendees or something like that, and ended up with 75 ready, able, and willing clients needing to buy or sell real estate. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can do seminars, and you can target those seminars to, you know, whatever group or association that you're a part of. And then you can do, you know, do them regularly as well. You know, we've got an agent here in Salem. She does a first-time home buyer seminar. She advertises it that she does it twice a month. She does it here at the Market Center. If nobody shows up, she just makes phone calls and does other work. If somebody shows up, she does the class, right? So, you know, start doing something, do it consistently, and you will get traction. So remember, leads are absolutely everywhere. Don't discount anybody. Learn to love hunting for leads, right? Like your business, your wallet will thank you when you do. Oops. What ahas do we have about these additional sources of leads? Any last ahas that we've got? Okay, so you've heard it over and over and over again. Capture every lead. It's absolutely crucial. You can build by capturing every lead and by staying in contact with all your leads consistently, you really can build a consistent real estate business, right? Most agents are not going to do this. I know that, we know that. We see the statistics come out of Command and out of other databases. We know that for the most part, over 90% of all agents don't do a good job communicating with their people. And for the most part, those agents have income that goes down, then up, then down, then up, right? Like I can tell you, I'm thinking of somebody very specific that I know who's got 3 deals closing this month. He hasn't had anything closed for the last 4 months because he had 3 deals close at the beginning of the year, and, you know, rode that high, right? Like stopped doing his lead gen, doesn't communicate with his leads well, focused on those 3 deals. And then his business dropped after they closed because he had nothing in the pipeline. So he spent, you know, 4 months building it back up. And now he's got 3 or 4 deals that are going to close this month. And so, yeah, don't be that agent. Be the agent that just has a consistent stream of business that closes 1 to 2 deals a month. You'll be a lot happier, right? Like your life will be a lot less stressful, and capturing your leads, getting your leads into your database and staying in communication with them are really how you do that. So before we end it for the day and I let you guys go on to your success system and start calling your people, are there any ahas, questions, anything I haven't covered?
I have several questions actually with regards to the referrals.
Okay.
So you did mention earlier about a story about the broker and the client relationship that fell apart. And then another broker took over the transaction. So in those cases, and obviously both of the broker and the client kind of approved to just kind of rescind the whole the contract, correct? So in those cases, when they entered the agreement or the contract, and let's say they enter a 3-month agreement or however many the timeline is, and it did fall apart before that. So what happens then? I mean, obviously they both approved of just having it, you know, canceled. So how, I guess I'm just kind of picturing how that would go about, and then it would go to another broker. You mentioned that. So
Yes, so what happened in this case was the original buyer, the first buyer, they discovered at like right before they were closing, when they were doing the final walkthrough on the property, they discovered, and keep in mind, this is a large piece of property here in Oregon, it's about 5 acres. And they discovered some poison oak on the property. And I guess the wife is allergic to poison oak, and which we all are to some degree, I guess. But anyway, they didn't say anything to the agent, didn't say anything to anybody else. They went straight to their attorney's office, and their attorney wrote a nasty letter saying that the poison oak is considered to be a biohazard by the state of Oregon, and that the fact that the seller didn't disclose it is a material breach of contract because they should have included that in their seller disclosure information, and thus they wanted to cancel the contract and get their money back.
okay.
The sellers didn't want to fight it, so they agreed to let the buyer have their earnest money back. So that transaction canceled altogether after that. Then the seller told the broker that took the listing, that they were going to fire her because they felt like that it was her fault, that somehow or another she should have known that there was poison oak on the property, and somehow or another she should have told the seller that the seller
Okay.
needed to dismiss that. Which that's where I disagree. It's not your responsibility as a real estate agent to know if poison oak exists on the property, unless you're an expert in that particular area, and if you're being paid to report on that too, right? But if you're just a realtor, it's not your job to know what biohazards do and don't exist on property. So in that case, the seller went back to the broker that took the listing and said, I'm going to fire you. And the broker, like I said, she was very unhappy with this particular seller at that point as well. They had called and said some very unkind things to her. And she didn't want to keep the seller. So she said, how about this? Let me refer you to another broker in my office, and they will take the listing. That way it doesn't have to come off the market. It just stays with our broker. You know, she made it look like it would be a lot easier for the seller. And the seller agreed. And in the meantime, this particular broker had already spoken to me, and she had already spoken to another broker in the office and said, hey, I'm probably going to refer the seller to you, and will you pay me a referral fee of X%? I don't remember exactly what it was. I want to say it was like 30-35%, something like that. And the other broker was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we transferred the listing to the other broker. The other broker marketed the listing, found a new buyer, got it under contract, and that ended up closing. And then the first broker got a referral fee.
Okay. And the referral fee that you mentioned, the other broker that wasn't in the transaction anymore, she doesn't have to be proactive about being in the process, correct? So it'll be just
no.
okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, generally speaking on a referral, and that's one of the areas where you want to communicate good too, right? Like we talked about communication earlier with your client, but when you get a client referred to you, you want to communicate with the referral source as well.
Okay.
Right? Like I always communicate with them, if of course, when I first talk to the buyer or the seller, I let the referral source know, hey, I just reached out to them. I've got an appointment set, blah, blah, blah. And then when I get an agreement signed, whether it's a listing agreement or a buyer agreement, when I get an agreement signed, I will let the referral source know again. And then once we have something under contract and we're getting close to close, I will normally let the referral source know, hey, you're about to get paid, right? Like we're just about to close on this. You're about to get paid.
Okay. And it doesn't
Um,
have to be in writing. I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
no,
for
you
the
don't, no, you don't
referral.
have to. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the referral agreement has to be in writing. Yes.
All
What
right.
you agree to pay has to be in writing. Yes. Because
Okay.
remember, so remember the Article 9 of the the Realtor Code of Ethics specifically
Everything
says
has to be in
that
writing.
every agreement that we have is in writing, right?
Mhm.
Everything
Yeah.
we do is in writing. As realtors, everything we do is above board. And it's all in writing. Everything's always spelled out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the referral agreement has to be in writing, but how you communicate with them is entirely up to you, right? If you just want to call them or send them a text or, shoot them a message on Facebook or whatever's the easiest for you, you can do.
Okay. That's clarified. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. What other questions do we have? So this is our final lesson in the lead generation segment of Ignite. So before we close it out, I would like you guys to take some time, or right after we close it out, I should say, I would like you guys to take some time and generate your personal lead generation plan. You're gonna have time to think it over all aspects of lead generation and build a plan, right? So when you look at your plan, follow these steps: connect with your sphere, build and feed your database, capture lead from open houses, build community with social media and capture leads, execute a referral strategy, choose a geographic area to focus on, and consider events and seminars, right? So maybe make a check mark to indicate what action or source or activity of lead generation that you're interested in. Again, everyone should have a sphere of influence. Everyone should have database checked. And then think about and pick 2 other sources based on your strengths and your interests, right? You guys don't do something that you don't want to do because you're not going to do it, right? Write out your strategy, give yourself a deadline to get started on everything. Share this with your accountability partner, and ask them to hold you accountable to your tasks and deadlines. Any final ahas and everything that we've covered? We've talked about message and method, approach, connect, ask. We've talked about prospecting versus marketing. Talked about ways of getting referrals from clients, from agents worldwide or business. Geographic farming. We've talked about events. We've talked about seminars. Any last ahas? Well, cool. Well, you guys are going to transition into lead follow-up. I'm hoping that you're ready to act on the objectives in your lead follow-up. You're going to gain a deeper understanding of how to create and disseminate lead generation messages, and then you'll be able to expand referral strategies. So now's the time to take action, work on your strategies, generate leads, look at a minimum of 4 sources. And if you have questions, concerns, or anything that you want to talk about, I'm always available. And yeah, get your mindset right, and go out and sell some real estate, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everyone good?
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. If you guys have any questions or anything, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Otherwise, I will see you all later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.